For those people that are looking to advance their career, don't try to just do what everyone else does. Work harder,
Yes.
go through promotion through your manager. That's relying on one person in an entire
Right.
company to move you up. Surprise people.
Welcome to Becoming Radical, the podcast for creators, builders, and dreamers just like you. What does it mean to become radical in a world of constant change? Hosted by Michael Gaizutis, each week we'll explore the real-time journeys of those rewriting the rules. From untold failures to groundbreaking success. If you're ready to break the boundaries of limited thinking, this is your guide to unlimited growth.
Welcome to Becoming Radical. We are joined today by Laura Flessner. Laura, it's great to see you here. Thanks for taking the time.
So excited to be here, Michael. Really excited to dive in with you.
Likewise. You know, your background is really, really impressive. So, from what I understand, you are the founder and CEO of MindTap. Is that right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing a lot to really help professionals, leaders, to break through this unconscious bias to become more authentic leaders. You know, I guess one of the first questions I have for you is around your journey to creating and founding MindTap. What really motivated you to transition from the corporate side of your career to founding MindTap? What was that initial story?
Absolutely. I actually never envisioned myself as a business owner before, but an opportunity came through the disguise of being let go.
Ah, yes. Yep.
Absolutely. It was during COVID. It was
Oh
during
yeah.
2020. Yeah, but it had nothing to do with that. It was a joint
Yeah.
venture, which was, those things happen.
Mm.
The company had too many innovation groups, which
Mm.
business strategy, there is such a thing as too many innovation groups, and mine
Yeah.
just happened to be the one that got shut down.
Oh,
So I honestly could have found another role within the new company that was forming,
yeah.
uh, but in my last role, I had been literally launching new brands, new businesses for the last 2 years, and
Wow.
caught the fever
Yeah. Yeah.
and thought, well, I was learning how to do this for 2 years. Why don't I do this for myself?
That
So
makes
that's what I
sense.
did. Yeah.
That's really exciting. Well, looking at your background, you know, holding roles from being with, from what I understand, Procter and Gamble, you know, doing work with Pfizer, and then eventually transitioning here to MindTap. You know, it's incredible how a lot of us have those stories. For me, it was very similar. I lost a position in 2009 working for a brand agency, and then that sprung me into the agency world, creating my own agency. And then from that, a lot of other opportunities. You know, and previously I had run other companies, but what's fascinating is how sometimes those things happen. And, you know, you use a circumstance that, you know, door closes to open another door. What do you, what do you think, you know, knowing what you've done with MindTap, there are always challenges for your diverse professionals. What do you think are some of the most significant challenges that diverse professionals face today in these traditional corporate environments? What are you typically seeing there?
There's unconscious bias everywhere. There's been a lot done to get rid of the overt bias and
Yeah.
discrimination. So everything's been, moved over to the politically correct. Uh,
Mm,
so these things are actually, the hard thing is that it's actually harder to spot.
yeah.
It's harder to point a finger at.
Yeah.
And honestly, with unconscious bias, which is in every single person's brain, it's including
Yeah.
mine and yours,
Yeah, of course.
um, we don't even know we're using those biases when we do.
Right.
So that's the hardest part is this is kind of an invisible enemy that you're going up against.
Yeah.
Uh, so how do you even tackle that when you can't even see it or spot it or
Ah,
point to it?
yeah, that's so interesting. And I think the fascinating part here is the integration of neuroscience, you know, coupled with innovation. You know, neuroscience is such an interesting subject area for me, for you, I'm sure, and then for so many people, and it's becoming more and more frontline to organizational growth and inequally for the consumer, right? How
Absolutely.
does understanding neuroscience for you contribute, to breaking unconscious biases? And then more importantly, how do you think it really helps in developing more authentic leadership? What does that process look like typically?
Yeah, good questions here. I love
Yeah.
diving into the science. My background is engineering, so that's why
Mm,
I get drawn to the data to understand what's going on.
yeah.
And unconscious bias is a brain thing. So understanding what's going on helps you to understand how to face it, how to
Right.
unlock it. So, you know, what I love doing, the biggest strategy that I love to teach is
Yeah.
the fact that our brain has different parts of our brain, right? But the one of the oldest and the part of the brain that every signal goes to first before it
Yeah.
gets to the logic, the prefrontal cortex,
Mm.
the analytical side of things, is the amygdala.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yes, the emotional center of our brain.
Yep.
And a signal has to go through the emotional center before it actually gets to that logic part.
Yes.
So, using emotions is my unlock to
Mm.
unconscious bias. How do we do that? It's through particularly the emotion of surprise.
Ah, yeah. Interesting.
So, when you surprise somebody based off of what you're doing,
Yeah.
what is surprise? It's a break in expectation, right?
Right. Right. That
And
makes sense.
what are biases? A
Right.
set of
Yeah.
expectations.
Ah, so it's that shift. Yeah.
It's that breakthrough. When you break
Interesting.
expectations, when you surprise somebody by what you do, you
Yeah.
break the biases that they had against you, whether they knew they had them or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that way, they actually then unshackle you with this box that they had put you in.
Right.
Uh, and now, like, well, whoa, wait, Michael did that? I wonder
Yeah.
what else he can do.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
The amygdala is such an interesting component to the part of the brain. And I've come to learn it more and more. I have a family member who is also an executive coach. She works with a lot of organizations and thought leaders. And she was talking about this with me for like the last 20 something years, right? And it's fascinating. And as I've come to learn about it more and more in the context of health and wellness and the context of autoimmune conditions and neuroimmune conditions. It's really fascinating because it plays a central role in a lot of these other longer chronic conditions. And we've experienced some different things. We have two kids, and they've been exposed to different challenges, and we've come to learn about them and how those regions of the brain affect the things that they're doing more and more. And again, how that ties back to the immune system. So there's so many interesting things here in terms of how that can apply, and I love hearing about that as it relates to the organizational shift, that radical surprise, if you will, and how you can change that paradigm of unconscious bias. It's really fascinating. And it brings me to a question of, this three-step innovative leadership system that I believe you've developed and how it benefits your clients. What could you walk us through that? I guess just overall, how you've created this system based on those ideas, those core ideas.
I'll start with a story because honestly,
Please.
this story is the one that unlocked this whole idea of what
Yeah.
MindTap could be all about. Uh, and it was when I was working at Pfizer.
Mm.
I was in R&D. I wasn't
Mhm.
yet a director. I didn't have political influence,
Yeah.
uh, but I was known for doing really good work. I was really good at what I did.
Yeah.
It was actually just after I had 3 kids too.
Ah, yep.
So I had 3 little ones at
Yeah,
home,
yeah.
uh, and with that, I was actually at that point ready to refocus on my career, right?
Yeah.
With that being established at home.
Yeah.
And so I put everything into my job. I worked 120%, 150%, right?
Mm. Yep.
And I got amazing feedback.
Yeah.
I was known for doing amazing work. I had a capacity that was beyond my peers, and I
Yeah.
could work with any personality,
That's
right?
amazing. Yeah.
And, you know what asset that could be like.
Huge.
So you're supposed to ask for what you want. I
Yep.
asked for a promotion. I asked for more
Mm.
strategic projects, and the response I got was, "You're doing great work.
Mm.
Yes, you're definitely on the trajectory, but not yet."
Mm.
And I like, "Fair, okay, that's great, but, what do I need to do? Like, what's that
Yeah.
gap that I need to bridge?" And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
just keep doing what you're doing. It's really great."
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
And we're like, "What? But there's no gap then, like, what?"
No. No.
So, but, I
Yeah.
had 3 tiny kids at home, so
Yeah.
that was the chaos. I needed stability in the workplace, so I was like, "All
Yeah.
right, we'll just keep going," but
Mhm.
what I ended up doing was pulling back on my work a little bit just to more
Yep.
like 100%, like, "All right, I'll just do my job."
Yeah.
But there was this idea that I had that I started really gaining passion, excitement, and momentum around,
Yeah.
and this was building an innovation space because innovation's
Mm.
something I'm really passionate about, love new creative solutions.
Yeah.
Building an innovation space in the workplace.
Right.
And this was, uh, important to me because at the time, I looked around and it was cubicle land
Yeah.
in a company that said they're so innovative.
Mhm. Everything is
So,
the same over and over and over again. Yeah, it's cubicle land. I love that.
I mean, so cubicles are great actually for
Yeah.
creating boundaries and focus,
Sure.
but
Sure.
for breakthrough new ideas,
Yeah.
collaboration,
Yeah.
creativity, it's not.
No.
And actually, I had worked at Procter& and Gamble before, right?
Yeah.
I and I saw they had these, and I saw just the impact I experienced, what
Yeah.
they could bring. So,
Yeah.
I brought the idea to the workplace, and, without political influence that I had, I was able to get president stakeholdership, $1.5 million,
Wow.
and half of an office floor to completely reconstruct
Wow.
into this new innovation space, and the first year it opened, over
Yeah.
65 teams used the space.
Okay. Gotcha.
And there was so much great feedback and impact happening
Yeah.
from this. But when they realized that, wait a minute, Laura is the one that led this,
Yeah.
quiet R&D Laura did this thing.
Yeah.
Uh, that's when people completely changed how they saw me.
Wow.
So I
Interesting.
did get a promotion after that. I got strategic projects without asking.
Wow.
And when I wanted to jump from R&D to the commercial side,
Yeah.
uh, to right get broadening experience without the traditional training,
Yeah.
they took a chance on me because they knew I
Right.
could make things happen.
Yeah, you made a move and you did it under the radar, which nobody expected, right? And then all of a sudden that created that trust and credibility and validation, and that's within a larger company. That's fascinating. It's a really cool story, and congratulations on that success. And then we're going to talk more about what you're doing today, but that's an amazing story. And I think thinking of that leadership system that you've developed again in use for MindTap. So it was born from that. It sounds like from that experience, it
It was
acted as a
I
springboard from it.
had to look back and say, what
Yeah,
did I do?
yeah,
Deconstruct that. And innovation's such a fuzzy,
yeah,
fluid thing,
yeah,
but I am an engineer and I like
yeah,
process
yeah. Of course,
structure.
yeah, yeah,
So I looked back and
yeah.
said, all right, what did I do? And that's where I created a process and
Right.
tools and structure uh,
Interesting.
to be able to guide people through that same process so they can surprise people with the
Mm,
impact they and value they can create
cool.
from their unique, authentic insights and
Right.
ideas.
That's fascinating. It's really cool. And it sounds like it's going really well in market today, for a wide range of organizations and leaders and individuals, which is really exciting. Do do going back to unconscious bias, is there Is there an example that you could share of how unconscious bias can, can really impede career progression, and then ultimately how could somebody overcome that if that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's so many ways it can come up. The
Yeah.
obvious ways are like women in male dominated industries,
Yeah.
right, such as IT or
Yeah.
manufacturing. Another is a cultural difference,
Sure.
right? Where you look, your accent, you sound different.
Sure.
Another way is LGBTQ plus, where you can
Yep.
show up differently.
Sure.
Uh, Also, neurodiversity as
Mm.
well, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, your brain works differently, so you think differently, you see
Absolutely.
things differently. Also, non-traditional things, such as almost introversion
Mm.
in the space of
Interesting.
leadership is pretty diverse, actually. When you
Yeah.
think about leadership, you think about extroversion, charisma, right? Loudness. Also, experience levels, right? When
Mm.
you're shifting or pivoting your career, your
Yeah.
space, people don't want to hire you because you don't have the right experience,
Oh, yeah.
right? So there's biases there.
Yep.
Um, Age bias is a huge thing.
Mm.
I personally experienced this looking young
Mm.
and not
Yeah.
necessarily being young.
Young and old, it gets you both
It
ways. It
gets
really
you the
does.
other way
It's
too, old
brutal.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, where you're not
It's so
in with the
difficult.
tech or the latest trends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, for myself, experienced it being too young in the beginning, right? So I was trying to really get into the world of business. I'm 16, I'm 18, I'm 20, and you're never taken seriously, especially back then. And this is, I'm 40, 41 now, right? I'm too old. It happened too quickly. So, but I feel young, but I'm too old, right? So it's the number game, right? But back then, you fast, reverse back 20 years. This is pre iPhone. This is pre everybody saying, "Hey, he's 20 or she's 20," and they're building the next big thing, and there might be more like excitement around that. It wasn't, I think, as commonplace as it is today, and it's still happening, and you're right. From the young to the old, it's so interesting to see what happens. There was somebody I know who recently is in his 50s, and he's trying to take a position in a startup, very seasoned head of engineer, head of software. Same challenge, couldn't find employment because he's in his 50s and they're looking for a certain profile. So you're absolutely right. The age card is important, but there's so many other things. You mentioned one really cool thing, which I don't often hear about a lot, neurodiversity. And that's really interesting because there are so many people that think and process differently for so many different reasons. There's a lot of reasons which we could go on and on about, but it's so fascinating that that is something that could be even construed as an unconscious bias. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and that one honestly is so new
Yeah.
still. We're learning so much
Yeah.
about neurodiversity at this time, and there's a lot of professionals, adults now that are
Yeah.
now only discovering about themselves
Yeah.
that they are neurodiverse, and that's why they've had
Right.
these other challenges. Uh,
Absolutely.
so, in this space, it's really there's still actually a very negative,
Yeah.
real conscious bias
Yes.
around neurodiversity too, not just unconscious as well.
Right. That's fascinating. It's so hard. I think when you live in a world that isn't solely driven on results, but might be organized to fit a certain structure, and you go outside of those boundaries, it's almost like you're painting or coloring outside of the lines, right? And some might consider that a work, piece of art by like a Picasso or a Jackson Pollock, right? Where you're going outside the lines. But others might say, no, that doesn't fit the picture. That doesn't work for us, right? And that's what's so interesting, especially private sector, as we know, and it's a lot of what we're talking about. And it is such a challenge between the unconscious and the conscious bias and the realities of the modern world. And you have to be able to function in a certain form traditionally, and I think that is changing more and more. And I think the reason in part it's changing is because of brilliant people like you supporting and guiding, but also because of people just not understanding that, recognizing that this isn't something they can continue to accept, that they're like, you know what, this isn't going to work anymore. My life is different. The construct of how I want to live is different. So I think with that level of acknowledgement and the reality set of where they want to go as a person, as an individual, as a family, it can create misalignment, and then they get realigned in a different way. So it's fascinating. Yeah.
I think there is a lot greater awareness for
Yeah.
individuals, and I honestly think that the experience of COVID
Yes.
was an unlock for people to start advocating for themselves a
Absolutely.
lot more. But
Yeah.
you also mentioned this aspect of being different in any of these ways that I mentioned
Yeah.
is like painting outside the lines.
Yeah.
It's out of the box.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why I love using innovation
Yes.
to tackle this challenge, because that is the unique advantage that
Right.
diverse professionals have,
Absolutely.
to be able to break out of the box, to be able to shine with new ideas and solutions.
Yeah.
The real challenge is that you identified, is that new ideas and things that don't fit
Yeah.
are often seen as threatening. That is another bias, honestly, within the brain that
Right.
is designed to help, evolutionary us keep
Yeah.
us safe,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
Because new things can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it is in most people's brains that a new idea often gets shut down, because it can be just threatening for one way or
Right.
another. They'll think of a reason why to shut it
Mm.
down, but
Yeah.
it's the amygdala talking. It's the
That's
fear.
right. It's fascinating. And I think you have the other side too, because you're right. There's a side that doesn't want to create the new idea. They're afraid. They're like, oh gosh, I don't know. Think I should shut that down. But then there's the other side that is all in, maybe too much, where they're like, I'm going to launch the next idea. And maybe their wife or their husband says, no, 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 sweetie, I don't know if you should. You probably should save a little bit of money and not put it into crypto or put it into this new business or invest in this piece of real estate because I don't know if we're going to get that return, right? What do you say to the flip side? If somebody is too idea driven, there's probably a balance where it's a good thing to a degree, but they have to ground themselves too, right? To create a level of reality set and checking in and say, okay, can I do this at this level yet? Or maybe it's something I can work towards. I can do this as a stepping stone, as a foundation.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
that's a great challenge. It does
Yeah,
completely swing the pendulum to the other side
it
there.
is. Yes.
The other challenge on that pendulum side, not only of just, like, going in too much too fast,
Mm.
is also, like, the plethora of ideas that you might
Oh,
have,
yes. Oh,
right? It's like,
yes.
"I wanna do this one, and this one, and this one, and this one," and
Yes.
your energy just gets diverted too much to
Mm.
make any momentum anywhere.
The idea machine, right? It's the idea factory. And it's great. I think so many people who are very gifted and talented will often have a lot of ideas, but so many of us do, right? So it's like a question of how do we ground that? How do we anchor that? Yeah.
And that's where I love to shift this, not just from innovation, but to
Yes.
innovative leadership.
Ah, yes.
So, innovative leadership to me is the step beyond thought leadership,
Mm.
right? So, thought leadership is going to push boundaries in a certain space, be
Right.
cutting edge, but innovative leadership makes that a real, tangible thing,
Interesting.
creates that thought from
Yeah.
something intangible to real, and
Right.
creates real value within the world.
Right. That is
So,
so paramount when you think about the
yes.
idea of innovation or the application of innovation in leadership. That's really, really interesting. And I think also very radical. I don't see that happening a lot where it's actually implemented the right way, but still supportive of that level of innovation at a high level. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's both the aspect of how do you lead innovation, like
Right.
in big companies. I know people like Linda Hills, a
Yeah.
professor at Harvard, right? She dives really amazing work into this. Uh,
Cool.
but it's also right, as a professional yourself, how do you lead an idea to make it happen?
Right.
And sometimes that means, with that pendulum swing over here, it means choosing
Mm.
one.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
that means slowing down
Oh,
and
yeah.
doing experiments, testing your assumptions
Yep.
before you go all in by creating
Yeah.
increasing your confidence level in
Yeah.
the assumptions you're making. So that's what I love to do. That's actually the third step out of the three steps. We talked three
Ah,
steps.
yes. Yeah.
The third step is that part of I love bringing the principles, the
Yeah.
structure, the tools of innovation to the masses. Because usually,
Oh,
right, it's focused just on those innovation groups or their
right.
startups or the agile people.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
but those tools are so powerful. You can use
Yeah.
it anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it has application in so many different vehicles, in and outside of in a large organization or a mid-sized growing organization. Yeah. It's really, really fascinating. When you think about aspiring leaders, what advice would you give to diverse professionals that really want to advance their careers and maybe in environments that might not be inherently inclusive, right?
Mm.
What advice would you give there?
Yeah. So that's where, as part of the strategy that I teach, the three steps, I actually never shared them. The first step
Yeah.
is to create a powerful idea.
Yep.
So this is not, something that you're passionate about, you're excited about, is going to be important, but
Mm,
also really creates value
yes.
for not just, the problem or the solution you're trying to bring, but
Yeah.
for the organization you're trying to bring it within. People forget about that part of it. So
Value is huge. Yeah.
the value back to the supporting organization is just as important as creating value for the people that need it, whatever
Yes.
idea you have.
Yes.
So create a powerful idea, because the more powerful that idea, the more powerful you'll show up as a leader.
Yeah.
The second part is to secure people and resources.
Mm,
This is navigating the political landscape. This is all about finding your people.
100%.
And not everyone's going to be your people. Actually, probably the majority of people aren't your
Yeah.
people, because in that there's a bell curve, uh,
Mm,
right? The distribution of innovation,
yeah.
where the majority and the late people, we talked about this in the brain, you're resistant to new ideas. But
Mm,
there's early part of that bell curve, 16% of people are early adopters. They're more naturally open to new
mm.
ideas. And so those are your people. Those are the people you have to find
Yeah,
within
the
your
16%.
organization.
Interesting.
So you're going to have to go through a lot of rejections before you find the right
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
So be ready
absolutely.
for that as
Yeah.
part of the process.
Yep. A
And
lot
then
of
the third,
no's before you get to a yes, before you get to a victory. Yeah.
absolutely, tick them
Yeah.
off.
Yes, exactly. Be okay with it. Yeah, it's embracing it, and once you've done that, I think you're that much farther ahead for yourself and against the noise out there. 100%.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
being okay with it doesn't mean that it has to feel good. It still doesn't
Right.
feel good. It never
No.
feels good,
No, it does not.
but
No,
you
it's not
keep
a fun
going.
thing. No. Agreed. Yeah, 100%.
So that's a second step. So first step, get a
Yeah.
powerful idea. Second step, find your people, secure
Yep.
those people. Those resources will help. Those people will help you get those resources.
Yes.
And the third step is make it happen. Use
Yeah.
innovation. Keep going. Start small and ramp up. All those principles is what I love to teach. But for those people that are looking to advance their career, don't try to just do what everyone else does. Work harder.
Yes.
Just go through promotion through your manager. That's relying on one person in an entire
Right.
company to move you up. Surprise people.
Mm,
Bring your ideas forward, particularly if it's outside of your job function, what you're not
interesting.
known for.
Yeah.
Make that amazing thing happen, and you're going to break through and you're going to create amazing things making a difference.
I love that. Surprise people. And it really becomes a breakthrough in becoming radical. That's the way I see it, right? So
That's
you're not
exactly it.
doing Yeah, you're not doing what everybody else does. You're doing something that is empowering, that is purposeful, and that eventually will be recognized in a vehicle, maybe to even become profitable for that company, for that team, for the leadership that is directly above, or the larger view of leadership and what that looks like, or if you're leadership. So that is a really fascinating way of looking at it. I really, really like that a lot. I love that actually. When we think about your specific services from MindTap, if I'm an organization today and I'm looking to foster inclusive leadership, let's just say, what
Yeah.
services would you support them with? What does that typically look like?
Absolutely. There's a couple of different things that we
Yeah.
can do together. One is I do speaking
Yeah.
to share this strategy of innovative leadership, to break
Mm,
through with your ideas. And
yeah.
so being able to foster that inclusive ideas that can come from anywhere at any level is a huge piece of what I talk about, and
Awesome.
also just empowering
Mm,
people with being able to step into their leadership,
yes.
even, if they don't have a leader title. It,
Right.
leadership is a choice, it's not a title.
Exactly. Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. It's a choice, not a title. I love that too. It's so true. And I think people get stuck. They get stuck in titles, they get stuck in personas
yes.
and whatever lane they're in, and they don't always want to go outside of that zone that they're in. But it's so important to think about, well, what value can you bring? Right. And how can you shift and navigate around that? It's very interesting.
Absolutely. And so the second piece is I teach those tools and the process to be able to do that. Uh,
Ah,
right? To be able to navigate those pieces within the organization for yourself.
yeah.
So I work with individuals, or we can create a training program within a
Mm,
company to be able to really bring those innovative champions forward
yeah.
within the company and have that support. So they'll have the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And my course for that is called Daring Different. And
Ah, very good. I like
yeah,
that a lot. Yeah. No, and it's so important because when everybody else does the same thing, you're going to expect the same result. That's the way I like to look at it, right? Or a very similar result. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But when we challenge the status quo, the opportunities for breakthroughs, radical breakthroughs happen. And I think that's when true innovation can occur because we're not doing the same thing and expecting a similar or the same result. We're radically shifting so many things out there, right? And there's an energy I think that can be exchanged there in that path to innovation when we do that. Not just with yourself and the people closest to you, but those that have a trickle effect in an organization, your customers, your clients, your partners, your investors, they start to see that positive energy exchange and the ripple effect it has. It's a powerful thing, and I think the energy goes a long way. And then eventually, if consumed and utilized the right way, becomes a huge powerful force as a change agent to innovation. So it's very, very interesting.
it's so empowering for the
Yeah,
individual, but it's also so inspiring for an organization when they see
yeah,
what is possible, what an individual can do. Um,
yes,
and with that, that's where a real difference
yeah,
happens. And it's for me, that's what I think is really what authentic leadership is all about, is being able to step into being different, being able to step
yes,
into your uniqueness and using that as a superpower, as your competitive advantage, because
yes.
no one else can see the world like you do based off of
Oh,
your skills, your strengths, your experiences, your everything that you've brought into this, to this moment creates that filter of how you see things, which no one else has. So
right.
that's what I love this approach as well, is because it
Yeah.
really taps into your uniqueness to be able to bring that value back out
Yes.
to the world.
Yeah. It's incredible. I think it provides a lot of value add, and I see it from multiple ends, which is really, really cool. How do you envision the evolution of leadership development programs, better supporting diversity and inclusion, let's say in the next decade? What do you think that will look like?
Oh, it's undergoing quite a
Yeah.
shift in the moment, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Honestly, I think that this is a really good challenge to step up into.
Mm,
Much like COVID was a challenge for us, and how do we do things
yeah.
different? It opened up the virtual world and
Oh,
collaboration
yeah.
in a way that no other thing could have.
No, yeah.
I also think that what we're going through right now with D&I is going to enable even better evolution
Yeah.
of how this shows up for people everywhere.
Yep.
Um, because you don't have to label or categorize people in a certain bucket. That's still putting them
Yeah.
in boxes.
Yeah.
So how do we do this in a way that is more inclusive, even more
Yeah.
inclusive, and being able to honor, a person's uniqueness, a unique
Yeah.
perspective and experiences, and bring those to light. Um, so honestly, I can't predict the future because there
Yeah.
is such an upheaval at the moment, but I'm excited,
Mm, yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
for the challenge that this brings us to be able to make things even better.
Yes. Yes, 100%. I think what's fascinating is, like we talked about earlier, people that are in the workplace from the startup side to the enterprise side, I think are realizing that their individualistic qualities, their value adds, their differentiators, and equally what might be seen as an unconscious bias or conscious bias towards them is an asset. And they're realizing now more than ever, with your support and by nature of the disruption happening in market, that these things that were once considered a negative, right? That might be viewed as yeah, I'm not so sure they're the right fit. They're empowered to make different changes, and they're okay with the idea of knowing that if it shifts them in one lane or another lane, that's all right because they're true to their mission and their core value as an individual. And ultimately, I think by doing that, they're going to end up in a much better place. And so will those companies. And that's what's so exciting about this whole movement idea and this disruption that's happening, I think, everywhere is that people are given an opportunity to really just be them and utilizing those value adds and those differentiators and those experiences, as you said, those worldviews to empower them forward and help act as a change agent for a lot of these companies that they're with.
There's a lot of change that's happening, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of leadership that's needed to drive the change in the right
Mm,
direction. So at the
absolutely.
same time, I am challenging those that are listening, right? Where do you see this going? And what is your role then in being able to drive this change, to make it happen and be a part
Yeah.
of creating that future, the future that you want to see? And so that's the piece that I love with innovation is that disruption like this actually is what is an enabler
Yeah.
to exactly that.
Exactly. Well, it's so exciting. And it's a great challenge for everybody listening. Reflecting on your career, your past, what personal experiences do you think have played the most significant role to your
Mm.
approach with leadership and coaching? What did that look like?
My family moved to the Netherlands for
Mm.
2 years when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
And that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
We traveled to different countries when we played sports teams.
Cool.
I went to different countries for music
Wow.
concerts when I played.
Yeah.
So many opportunities. I traveled to 21 different countries in 2 years.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
I understand the privilege that I had with that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But what it enabled me to see and learn more than even within school is the fact
Mm.
of the diverse ways that people live and
Yeah.
are, and the beauty behind that,
Yep.
and being able to experience all that, but also how much connects us together,
Yes.
how much is the same.
Yeah.
Our experiences of the range of emotions we feel and
Yep.
how powerful just a smile is.
Yes. Yeah. It's so
Uh,
true.
Yeah. So, I think that was amazing, education for me to do what I'm doing today that I didn't
Absolutely.
realize at the time.
There's such a universal language and connectivity, right? And I think you
Yes.
experience this when you go to other countries. You also experience this even remotely by talking to people all around the world, and the level of connectedness you see now. In for myself, I work with teams in Europe and teams in Canada and teams in Brazil and so on and so forth, right? And when you start to do that more and more, you see cultural differences, but you also see cultural connection points where everything is very similar. And I think once you start to realize that as a leader, but as an individual too, it really helps you on your journey to knowing that we are so much closer together than we think, right? And that helps to
Absolutely.
shape a better innovative path to success because we can see those common threads much more.
That is so true, and
Yeah.
that's the basis of humanity that really connects us, which is
Yes.
amazing. But then also the celebration of diversity. It's such an
Mm.
interesting paradigm, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and I love the balance, the beauty of it.
Absolutely. And that brings me to one of my last questions for you. How do you assess impact? We talked about value. We talked about all the things that we can do, to accelerate innovation with leadership. But how do you assess the impact of what you're doing, both for people as individuals, but also through, organizations? What does that typically look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some, measurable
Yeah.
impact within organizations. It's, people feeling empowered to bring ideas forward, to be able
Yep.
to create new things, to ask really powerful questions,
Yes.
to think differently. Right. Uh, for the individual, there's value in multiple ways.
Yeah.
One, very measurable or direct could be a promotion. Could be
Yes.
a
Exactly.
successful shift into a new industry,
Yep.
right? But honestly, the greater impact that I see for my clients is
Hmm.
ending up to be connecting with purpose,
Yes.
and
Yes.
passion, things that are important to them that they want
Right.
to pour their energy into.
Makes sense.
To make a difference in the world and for other people and other places.
Yeah.
Um, this impact then brings them more energy. It
Yeah.
honestly brings out the best performance in them even more because they're driven
Right.
to keep going no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is how I see people really shining and showing up in their best light.
It's
Uh,
amazing.
so there's impact on a number of levels.
Yes. Oh, I see that. And your energy that you bring to this, your support of what people are doing, it's so visible. And I think it is so impactful, right? Because you're helping them to lead with purpose, with intentionality. And it's so powerful, And if I were a person listening in today, where could I find you, Laura? Where would they be able to learn more about you, to work with you, to collaborate with you? Where could they find you, and what does that look like?
The first place to look is LinkedIn. I am there
Yes.
every day,
Yes.
and send me a DM, send me a message. I love talking to new people, no matter who you are. I'd love to meet
Yes.
you. If you want to know more about my services in general, you can go to thinkmindtap.com. That has everything about my business and all the different services I have as well. But I prefer the chat. So just reach
Mm,
out and say hi. I'd love to meet you.
amazing. And this will all be on our show notes today for all our listeners. And we hope to make some introductions soon. But aside from that, this has been an amazing conversation and a chance to get to know you more, your story, your background, all the things you've done that make you you, and all the things you're doing to help people on their path to innovative leadership and success. And more importantly, a more a more radical approach to how we're navigating this world of the workplace and how we're balancing that with our own lives as we move forward. So it's been great. You are definitely becoming radical, and we will keep following you and supporting you in your journey.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Michael. It's been so
Thank you.
much fun. To everyone out there, be brave, be humble, be true to you.
Thank you for listening to Becoming Radical. If today's episode sparked something in you, follow wherever you listen, join the conversation, and share it with someone ready to think beyond limits. Be unlimited, be bold, and become radical. See you next time.
Game over.